fight these fights and to raise these issues. Is why I love you and respect you so much. But it's just tragic that all these years after your big mama and my big mama, we still wrestling with these modern day lynchings of black men and black women in 2023 and sadly beyond.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to hear that conversation. I got
the podcast up now. The podcast is up, so you go to any of our platforms. They're all KBLA 1580. Go to KBLA 1580, and you'll find it's called The Return. And I'd love to have you listen and call me private and let me know what you think about it.
Absolutely. I can't wait to listen. I would even love to see it turned into a play on Broadway.
Yeah.
You know, I think there would be so much interest in people being able to hear this conversation and realize how interconnected and interrelated the struggles that they articulated in the 50s and 60s are to what is happening today.
Yes.
And they warned us about a lot of these things. If these things aren't corrected, here's what's going to happen. So their prophetic voices continue to ring true. And when I go back and look at what they read, what they wrote, I'm just blown away because they mapped out a lot of the same issues that we are grappling with today. And instead of people embracing that, what are we seeing? Attacks on African American history. People trying to get our history out of the schools and erase our history. What are your thoughts on this faux attack on Black history and on critical race theory that we're dealing with right now?
The short answer is that it's scary. There are any number of people who want to look at Ron DeSantis in Florida as a political figure, but he's so much more than that. He's dangerous. He's dangerous. I try to be careful, and I advise people to be careful about putting the Jews in your mouth. Dave Chappelle made that point when he was hosting Saturday Night Live. You got to be careful what you say about our Jewish brothers and sisters, and you got to be careful about invoking the Holocaust and invoking Hitler. And you got to be careful because there's nothing really to gain by comparing tragedy. The Middle Passage versus the Holocaust, there ain't nothing there. And you don't gain anything by comparing tragedy. So I understand, and again, I advise people to be careful when they invoke those kinds of moments, critical moments, horrific moments in world history. And yet, I say this unapologetically. This is how it started in Germany, with Hitler and others denying people certain rights, books that can't be read, African-American AP courses in real time that can't be taught. This is where that starts. And so you can laugh Ron DeSantis off. You cannot take him seriously. But right now, I was talking again in Black History Month with a Du Bois scholar who has a new book coming out about the great Black intellectual W.B. Du Bois, the first African-American to get a PhD from Harvard. And we were talking about the fact that there are books now that Du Bois has written that it is illegal to teach about or teach from in Florida. I was discussing in that conversation that there are school districts, to your point, Nakima, you well know this, there are school districts right now in Florida that are warning their teachers, hide certain books, hide the books, hide them away somewhere. Don't teach from them. Don't reference them because we're afraid you may be arrested and sent to jail. I mean, this is America. And here we are in 2023. And again, so I don't want to belabor the point, but I don't look at Ron DeSantis as merely a political figure. He is a dangerous man. And to the extent that we talk about this around the fringes and don't call it what it is, I think there's going to be a huge price to pay for this down the line. But this is how that nonsense, this is how anarchy begins.
Absolutely. And people are being indoctrinated, listening to the language that he's speaking, knowing, first of all, critical race theory is not even being taught in our elementary schools, middle schools, or high schools. The first time I even really heard the term and wrapped my mind around it was in law school, right? So it's like a high-level theoretical framework that is used to contextualize, you know, many of these social systems and connect them to our history. And that is being taught as misinformation to folks who are ignorant as to what is really going on. And also who are upset, in my opinion, that you had someone like Donald Trump who did not win re-election and all of the hatred that was stoked during that time, and how a lot of this started coming to the surface after the January 6 attacks that you and I have talked about on KBLA, and how a lot of that is still being largely swept under the rug. Why is this conversation about African American history and the need to allegedly ban our history taking precedence over what happened on January 6th?
Yeah,
that's a problem.
No, it's a real problem. And the short answer for me, Nakim, is truth. America has always had a problem wrestling with, dealing with, accepting the truth. It seems so simple on the surface, but that's what it boils down to, that we can't handle dealing with the truth, much less teaching the truth in our classrooms. And the closer you get to that moment in American history, we're on the way there, where for the first time ever, this country will be made up of, it'll be a minority country where people of color will make up the majority. What do? When you can't change the game, you change the rules.